Hello, and welcome to Book Reviews Kill, a podcast about fantasy, sci-fi, and horror novels. I'm Evan.
And I'm Chad.
And you're joining us today for our recap and discussion of Book 6 in the Expanse, Babylon's Ashes. I had some time to sit on this after finishing it. I think it was pretty good. It wasn't my favorite.
It wasn't my favorite either.
How do I put this? I think it's the sixth book in a 9-book series, and it's in my opinion, this is the dip. This is a dip in pace, but not necessarily quality, like at all. But man, that first 300 pages was brutal for me.
Yeah, same. It was really rescued by the second half, because I'm just coming off of the second half, and it was all battles and some of my favorite types of battles, which are premeditated, strategic implementation, and plans, and it was very cool. But man, the first half was a bit sloggy. We're working with yeast on the farm. Just growing plants, and you're okay.
Oh man, when we went over to Prax, I like Prax, but we're over with Prax, and man, oh boy, this is boring. This is
boring.
And it's interesting because in the Prax chapters, someone dies. There's some intrigue going on there, and then the Medina station chapters, in my opinion, were super boring. Didn't know who any of these people were. Didn't know why I needed to care about any of this stuff. Yeah,
I did really like Michio-pa's chapters though.
Yeah, Michio-pa was great. Awesome character. I liked the Philip chapters a pretty good amount, actually. I liked Philip.
They were okay. I didn't really like Philip.
Yeah, we can talk more about that.
He was just kind of annoying.
I liked Philip a lot. I mean, Holden and Naomi's whole thing was pretty cool in this book. There's a lot of things that move forward. It's just Nemesis Games was such a high for me. Especially having all the POV chapters from the Rocinante crew. There was too many, in my opinion, there were too many POV chapters that jumped around so much. I was kind of lost and bored for a lot of this.
I'm surprised Mr. Game of Thrones is saying that, though, because I kind of felt like this book was, I hear these books be compared to the space Game of Thrones from time to time. And it's I haven't really considered that to be a fair comparison until this book, where I was yeah, this one kind of did that for me a little bit, where it was not in quality, but just in the scope of the tale, the amount of characters that we're seeing, and we're all over the place. We're flying everywhere. This book, we've gone to every moon and every battle station, and we went to the Luna.
So my whole thing with this book, now that I've had a little bit to think about it, because you and I both finished it a little bit ago, but with our personal schedules and stuff, we weren't able to make this episode. But I've had some time to think about it, and I've kind of read some other people's reviews and thoughts on this book. And to me, I think that it makes sense that we slowed down so much. And the Earth got hit by 3 asteroids, killed half the population on Earth. There's a real kind of darkness and melancholy around the first half of this book,
a grieving and recovery simultaneously.
Well, and we're exploring a lot of different relationships. We're exploring the relationship between Philip and his dad, Naomi and Holden, Philip and Naomi, Philip and Holden, Amos
Marcus.
And Clarissa.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on here. And what is all this for, if not for the relationships between the people that are still alive after all of this went down? So it kind of makes a lot of sense that we'd have this more kind of introspective, slower, more grounded thing after the chaos that was book 5. So again, it's a dip in pace, but not a dip in quality at all.
It wasn't even really a dip. It was more of just a refocusing. Whereas the last book, we had a lot of system-wide events happening, and growth in a faction's power, and how the fate of the universe, so to speak. And this one, we had a lot of growth in the characters themselves, and they kind of came into themselves at the end of last book, I feel like. And this one was kind of we got to see him in action a little bit. I don't know, I just felt it was a little bit more focused on the characters, a lot of characters.
I mean, it's great, but at the same time, and one of my gripes with this book is I just felt like the ending was kind of anticlimactic. And
Same.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's just,
we weren't even there for some key events.
But also, the Free Navy thing isn't the main thing in this series at the same time.
Right, but
so I get it. But
we're 6 books deep.
I
don't know.
I think it's
the
Duarte.
protomolecule.
I think it's Duarte and the protomolecule stuff.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I don't know. Let's get into the recap, and then we can kind of dig into some more specific stuff.
Let's do it. The book begins shortly after the events of Nemesis Games. Things are hard for the people still alive on Earth after the devastating asteroid impacts. The Free Navy has since attempted another asteroid strike, but their effort was thwarted by the UN Navy. Pastor Anna begins holding church services in their living room to help how she may. Michio Pa, captain of the Free Navy ship Connaught, has been stopping ships at the ring and redistributing their cargo to her allies in the belt. She is invited to Marco's inner circle meeting on Ceres. Philip, Marco and Naomi's son, nurses a deep hatred of Holden, thinking Holden is the reason for his mother's death. He later finds out she survived her escape from the Free Navy, which turns his hatred from Holden to his mother. On Luna, Holden and the Rocinante's crew spend days being debriefed by the UN Navy. In a meeting with Avasarala, Fred Johnson, and Prime Minister Smith, they learn of the combined UN and Martian strike force. That new fleet plans to find and destroy a Free Navy ship called the Azure Dragon, as they believe it to be the ship coordinating the attacks on Earth. Bobby Draper is assigned as the mission's commander. In the slow zone, we learn that the ring station has been outfitted with railguns attached to rings that float near the station, as they couldn't wield directly onto the alien station itself. On Ceres, Michio Pa is beginning to doubt Marco's leadership. The Free Navy Inner Circle meets, and Marco lays out his plan for a system-wide Belter civilization, with food factories and massive power plants. The resources to build this infrastructure would come from his plot to strip mine the now weakened Earth. Marco's son, Philip, gets into an altercation and is banned from ever returning to Ceres by the governor, Anderson Dawes. The Rocinante catches up with the Azure Dragon, after receiving only silence in response to their hails. Thinking it to be disabled, they send Bobby out to board it. The Azure Dragon traps Bobby in its airlock and sends soldiers in mech suits to attack the Rocinante. Amos and Clarissa leave the ship and manage to fight them off. Clarissa is shot in the assault, but is rescued by Holden. Upon returning to Luna with the prisoners from the Azure Dragon, Holden is surprised by his family, who have been brought to the moon by Avasarala. Avasarala calls a meeting and proposes an attack on Ceres to eliminate the gathered Free Navy leadership. Marco learns of the UN Navy's plan and begins evacuating all military personnel and supplies, but leaves the Belters behind to fend for themselves. Upset with Marco's evacuation, Michio Pa and her family decide to defect from Marco's command. Scientists on Ganymede begin developing a new yeast that will make food grow faster. Though Earth is desperate for food, Prax delays the research as he is unwilling to feed the peoples of Earth with a new food source without thorough testing. Later, the researcher who proposed the new yeast is found dead, most likely murdered by the Free Navy. Under the watchful eye of the Free Navy, Prax manages to recover the late researcher's work, finishes the project, and sends it to Earth in secret. Marco destroys one of Michio Pa's ships, the Witch of Endor, which forces Michio Pa to contact Fred Johnson for aid. Fred Johnson doesn't trust Michio and is not forthcoming in giving assistance she asked for. Holden and Bobby agree on the need for a leader like Michio Pa and head off to meet with her without Fred Johnson's approval. Enraged at her changing allegiances, Marco destroys another of Michio Pa's ships and attempts to destroy the Rossi, but the Rossi is able to shoot the incoming missiles. Marco takes 2 ships to intercept Fred on the Rossi on its way to Tycho. The Rossi fights back, however, and is able to destroy Marco's 2 supporting ships with her railguns. The Rossi fires off a few missiles at the retreating Pellas, but Holden calls them off after learning that Philip is aboard the ship. The Rossi wins the day, but during the fight, Fred Johnson has a stroke and dies. Marco blames Philip for their defeat in the recent battle, further reinforcing Philip's decreasing loyalties. Holden steps into Fred Johnson's position for the upcoming meeting on Tycho. The appearance of Anderson Dawes at the meeting moves the general sentiment toward Holden, and he is allowed to continue acting in Fred Johnson's stead. A plan is then formed to recapture Medina Station using an ice hauler packed with smaller decoy ships. To distract Marco, they plan on simultaneously launching assaults on the other Free Navy installations. Michio Pa leads one of these assaults and disarms Pellas Station, forcing their surrender. During the attack on Medina Station, the station once again acts in self-defense and somehow manages to push all of the railguns defending it away. This leaves the station defenseless, and it is taken by Holden and the UN and Martian forces. Marco gathers his army and prepares to recapture Medina Station. A call is put out for reinforcements, but none can be spared, leaving the attack group of Medina Station to fend for themselves. Naomi and Holden come up with a plan to use the alien technology against Marco, They hope to trick him into going through the ring while over a certain energy threshold, which Naomi discovered is the trigger for the incoming ship's disappearances. The plan works, and Marco gets an adventure between atoms before his ship disappears, becoming everything and nothing. 6 months after the battle, Holden is offered leadership of a union which will manage Medina Station and the people and resources that pass through the gates. Holden declines and proposes that Michio Pa be given the position instead. The book ends on a hopeful note, with Pastor Anna and her congregation flying to a new planet looking to settle there. The human race once again displaying its ability to adapt in the face of calamity, relentless as it continues its expansion into the unknown.
All right, so for just a refresher for everybody that read this book, Michio Pa does in fact turn a ship around, or at least orders a ship turned around to face its reactors or its thrusters, the big blue engines in the back, towards the docks, and then threatens to melt the docks, which was so awesome. That was
I'm gonna slag your station.
That was like the coolest part of the whole book for me. Like,
absolutely,
man, Michio Pa is so cool.
Nothing like the concept of having a bigger gun, you know.
What did you think about her decision to defect from Marco?
So, the Free Navy, I think this is kind of a deeper point of the her reason is kind of a deeper one in Marco's use of the Free Navy. The Free Navy starts off very altruistic, like wanting Belter equality and freedom, and driven by these kind of, you know, these really good things that we would all agree is like, yeah, those things should be fought for. And then he kind of takes over and uses it as a tool for his own personal revenge, and is just like petty and ends with tons of death. And so I think she kind of saw that evolving, and then his final move, which put the nail in his coffin, was heading out of Ceres with taking all of the military stuff and all of the supplies and leaving all the Belters just fend for themselves. And she was like, okay, I know where your motivations are at.
Right. It seems almost like Marco is much more focused on just getting back at the inner planets and not so much on creating a Belter society, even though like two things can be true at the same time. He does want to do that, but his actions, what he's actually doing, is different than what he says that he wants to do. Yes. You know,
he's like, let's build, and then drives a bunch of asteroids into the only habitable planet in our solar system. Nice.
Yeah, I wonder if they had figured on the exact damage that those asteroids would do, because I didn't know when they did that they still had like some plans for Earth, in a sense, which like how would they even
like strip mine it, which was so kind of like maniacally like ha ha ha, and then
like how are they gonna even do that? Like there's too many, there's still like a whole, they'd have to kill literally
like 7 billion more people,
well, and all of the people working in the military complex, like all the joint you know, they might as well, they basically just united Mars and Earth, right?
Totally.
They would have to take down now the combined fleets of Mars and Earth, which I understand is Marco's end game here, but how do you propose you do that? I mean, that's too...
Yeah, he has like, a formidable... strip mine it. It's like, well, yeah, but what about the army between you and the mining?
Yeah, and then so Michio, I thought it was, yeah, pretty cool that Michio was essentially like, okay, well, I don't know about all that, but I really liked the part where we're helping everybody, so let's go do that.
Yeah, she had a good soul, and you could tell she was one of like the founding members of the, we're going to do this for like equality throughout the universe and Belter freedom and not being like ruled by corporations and abused by them, which is all good. And then she was like, oh, Marco's the man. And then she realizes Marco is just using it to get revenge.
What did you think about the Philip chapters? You kind of hinted in the intro that you weren't a big fan of Philip.
I just thought he was like there's so many real problems in the solar system. The book, and Philip is over here just like angsting out and just like, oh, his woe is me. His life is so bad. And he's just a hater of everything. He's like, I hate my mom because he's like, I hate Holden because he's the one who killed my mom. And then he learns that his mom's not actually dead. He's like, oh, now I hate my mom because she didn't tell me that she was still alive. And then like, now I hate Marco because he actually deserved the hate. So like, good on him for that one, I guess. But like, he's just a hater, and all I see him do is like pointing his hatred. It's like maybe you should like focus on like seeing what you can make better, man. Your
But
whole outlook
maybe
on life is awful.
but maybe his environment isn't really conducive for that kind of like, you know what I mean?
It
Like
certainly is
maybe
not.
the
No,
way
but
that
he
he's been brought up, I feel like he's been brought up to hold resentment towards everything almost, you know.
sure. Oh
That's
yeah,
how
Marco is the
Marco has,
worst.
yeah, Marco has basically inundated this poor kid. I think it's a sad story, you know. It's a
It is
sad
a
thing
sad
that
story.
he's obviously smart, you know, like he's obviously a very capable leader too. I mean, he led the attack on Callisto. It sucks that somebody as young as him is so focused on gaining the affection of somebody who's so obviously using him.
Right? Because he doesn't want revenge, I don't think. I think he just wants affection from his father. He wants a parent.
Like I said, I mean, two things can be true at the same time. I think that he does want revenge in the sense that he's been told a story by his dad, you know, and his dad obviously knows that, you know, Philip is smart, but his dad also uses Philip as leverage against his mom too. So
Yeah.
it's really messed up. It's like this whole messed up situation. And so like Philip, when he kind of like attacked that guy when they were on, I think Ceres, when he like got in a fight with
Yeah,
that
they're on
guy
Ceres
or
Station. Yep.
whatever.
Anderson Dawes like banishes him.
Yeah, but that was like him acting out, you know. I mean, he's like what, 15, 16 years
Is he
old,
is he
and
that young? I
yeah,
kind
he's
of figured
super
it because like he
young.
was like
Yeah.
leading a battle.
Yeah, but I
Like
mean,
crazy.
he's a capable kid, you know. He's
Yeah,
Marco's.
that's true. I still wouldn't have a 16-year-old lead the troops into
Yeah,
battle.
maybe not. Yeah, especially for
Yeah.
something as important as like stealth technology that you're going to
Yeah.
cover those asteroids in and stuff.
Well, yeah, to
Maybe
like
not a good
unearth your
call, but he did
diabolical
it.
plan to destroy the planet. Yeah, he did do it. He did indeed.
I thought it was pretty cool that Philip got onto a ship and bailed on everything. He was just like, "All right, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. This
Yep.
is
I don't want to be a part of
whatever."
this.
And it was cool because there were a couple scenes before that where Marco was talking and Philip like internally was like, "Wait, what? Like you're kind of lying about this.
Right.
Like you're wait a minute." So yeah, I mean, and I think that like you said in the recap here, when Marco basically says like, "Okay, Philip, it was all your fault that we lost this battle," when it like clearly wasn't. You know,
Not
it's
even a
just
little. They just got bested by the Rossi, which was awesome.
it was he crossed the line. I think that line it depends on how much propaganda you've been fed, how manipulated and gaslit you've been. But Marco obviously crossed that line with Philip. But I wanted to ask, like, do you think that in the next book, Philip and his mom will kind of like
I
rekindle or like
think
have some kind of relationship, or do you think Philip's just gone for
no, he's
good?
coming back. Maybe not this next book, but we have not seen the last of Philip. And yes, I think that him actively making the decision to rise above his upbringing and just step away and leave his dad was the beginning of his redemption arc. But like he was like instrumental in destroying 7 billion people, right?
15 billion.
15. Oh, I thought it was like half of that. Oh, because
No,
there
it's
was 30 people
15.
on the planet. That's right. So I
Yeah.
mean,
That's a lot of
like
people. It's a
what
lot of people.
crimes are like even if you repent, it's like, man, should we take you out still though? Like, wow, that's a rough one.
Yeah. I mean, at least imprisonment, you know,
Yeah,
for a long.
something.
I don't know if you can really lay the
You can't
deaths
just
of
be
all
like, I was
those
in a
people.
phase.
Yeah,
Like,
but
no,
I mean,
dude.
but it's not really I mean, yeah, he's so young, man. Like he's so like people are
Yeah,
so impressionable when they're really, really young. People are impressionable no matter what age they are,
I'm
you know. But
impressionable.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, I am. But when you're growing up with somebody who you idolize, you're gonna just assume everything they're saying is totally. I mean, like Philip, if you think about it, didn't have a choice. Like there was like because Marco was consciously making the decision to kill that many people, but
Right.
Philip was kind of following a plan
Philip was
that
along for the ride, but
yeah,
I
I
do
don't know.
not think that justifies or like gives him like a carte blanche, a ticket of freedom for like
Yeah,
getting out from
that's a
under the guilt
lot
of
of
like, dude, you
people.
still like at some point you could have been like,
So,
no, I'm not doing that.
yeah, like when Dresden killed all those people on Eros in the first book, you know, even Miller kills him because he's like, oh, he's starting to make sense, you know, because it was a rounding error. Like when you really thought about
Totally,
like this
totally.
many people on Eros, this many people in the solar system, what's the big deal, you know? And obviously
Right.
that's wrong, but it totally
Or
like
like
lines up like
Genghis
logically.
Khan killed so many compared to that where it's a drop in the bucket, you know.
Right, exactly. And so like on paper, totally that kind of makes sense. But 15 billion people,
I mean,
dude,
that's
like
probably like what 20,
woo.
30% of all humans.
I think it's got I mean, because there's 30 billion on Earth. I don't know how many are on Mars. I think it's less than 10 billion.
Okay.
And then I think there's like another few billion out in the belt. So Earth
Wow.
definitely has the big population. So
Yeah.
it's a lot. I don't think it's like half, but it's definitely getting up to half. It's most people, and not to mention the it's not just the people that died, right? Like I mean that is bad enough in and of itself, but Earth like there are new colonies and there are new planets and new solar systems and stuff, but those are so much in their infancy and still
Earth is
reliant
an
on
anchor.
yeah, Earth is the biggest part of all of
It's
this. So, I
home.
mean, so it was a huge hit, but at the same time, like there's like economic fallout, there's social fallout, there's political fallout, there's all kinds of different things that, man, I feel like this book uh, explored it with the PAX chapters pretty well. I think that's why they were there. They
Yeah.
explored a lot of that kind of stuff, but
And to give us the scope that the Free Navy had taken over, its power, and it affected and influenced the rest of the solar system. You know, they were over on all sorts of places.
yeah, those PAX chapters were pretty. I mean, I like Prax, like he's cool, but I like seeing his daughter a little older and kind of more involved and
Yeah,
stuff. And I don't know, it was
there were some
cute and
vibey
cool,
things in there. Yeah, but I
but
wasn't
yeah,
super. I don't know. Okay, did you think it was like a deliberate move by James S.A. Corey to make the Earth like essentially an asteroid? Like they've been hating on the Belters basically because they have a gravity well and a planet that you can breathe the atmosphere, and then they still have that, I suppose, after the asteroids came down, but like a lot of it was removed from them. Earth got decimated, and so
yeah,
it's like they kind of got turned into like a big belt,
a big
you know?
rock,
Yeah,
yeah,
big rock, and it's like that's kind of there's an irony there, you know?
yeah. It's almost like I mean they were trying to make it as uninhabitable as it is for the Belters out in space, you know,
Right.
because that's a big thing is that the Belters they never go to most of them never go to Earth. Like most of them are never in
They
the
can't.
in yeah they're never in the environment that biologically we're probably going to thrive in. I mean
Mm-hmm.
we can survive in domes and we can survive underground and on Mars and we can survive on all these little asteroids and stuff, but it's really inconvenient and it's really difficult and dangerous. And then on Earth, so like the Belters' kind of view of Earth is not only that they have like an uneven and unfair amount of control over the belt, but they have like the privilege of living in an oxygenated,
Right.
beautiful landscape that they were
Right.
just born into.
Not
So there's
only
a
do they
certain.
get what we dream about, but they also control what we dream about.
I mean,
Like,
it's like class warfare if you think about
yeah.
it. I
Oh, for
mean,
sure.
it's basically class warfare. And I sympathize with a lot of the reasons that are laid out with why the belt and especially the OPA feels a lot of this hatred for the inner planets. But 15 billion people is is so far past a line that would be crossed. I mean, like, whew, that's still up until now. I know we're almost into book 7 here. We're about to start book 7, and dropping 3 asteroids on Earth and killing half the people on the planet was not. I really am still reeling from that, just as the
Yeah.
reader. Like that was the biggest moment, and that's like the red wedding of this whole
Ooh, good
series.
call. It was
Yeah,
the
it
Red
was
Wedding. Yeah.
seriously
This,
like so unexpected, so intense, changes up everything. Oof, man.
yep. It reminds me of this Winston Churchill quote where he says, "To build may have to be the slow and laborious task of years. To destroy can be the thoughtless act of a single day." I definitely have a lot more respect. This is a general statement for sure, not applicable everywhere, but I definitely have more respect on the build something better than destroy something, like make change something you don't like by making it better and building upon what is existing as opposed to utterly destroying it. Though what Sanderson has that quote, oh, I'm gonna butcher it, but he says like sometimes you have to destroy something in order to build something better.
Yeah, I mean it's all
Which
about
both could be true.
context, It's all
Yeah.
about the situation, I mean, with the Belter situation, improving on the system that was already in place and kind of validating the way that the Belters felt on a political level, and trying to bring these very obviously different cultures together in order to work toward everybody being happy and having their needs met and things like that. Yeah, like that would have worked. And that was another thing that was like a weird thing toward the end of this book, when they kind of have this idea of like using the belt to facilitate the move from Earth and Mars to these other
Beyond.
these,
Right.
and it's like, I maybe you can clear this up for me, but like, why didn't they just do that before? I mean, it was, if it was obviously going to be an issue, like, did they just think of this plan and they were like, wait a minute, why don't we just have them be involved in it? Because then
Right.
that would
We
solve a
can
lot of
home
their
base
issues.
there.
But like, that just slipped everybody's minds, like that solution, or what
I
changed that made them think about that? Was it like Earth and Mars coming together, or
I
what?
think so. I think I think it was trying to point out the fractioned nature of the whole solar system prior to that event, which kind of brought everyone together, or at least the
Hmm.
players with shared interests together.
I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and so
Like,
they weren't really thinking about it as a potential good. It was only like, what? How do we defend ourselves from this thing? Not like, how do we like incorporate them into our plans? You know?
not to mention, the three asteroids hitting Earth and this free navy popping up. Yeah, I guess it could be seen as kind of a wake up call. Like, oh, we didn't know it was that bad.
Right.
Wow, we thought they were just upset and we were going to
Right.
make a bunch of money. We could deal with
Right.
that, but they're throwing asteroids at us now. Okay, we should probably let's try to
Okay.
figure this out. Okay, let's deal with this free navy thing. I'm wondering in the next book or in the next few books if we're going to have any kind of fallout from the Free Navy dissipating, if we're going to have any remnants of it. How do the other Belters feel? How do the other factions of the OPA feel? Because they only got Marco. Like, they didn't kill like everybody that was involved in these plans and things like that.
Totally.
I'm curious to see in the next few books like how this is all kind of like smoothed over and alleviated, and how we can make the most amount of people happy.
And it almost pains me to say this, but I think it's Holden who was really going to save the day on this one by putting Michiopa in the position of head of the union that controls the
Yeah,
resources and people in the expanse of people through the
yeah,
rings. It's giving a belter, a high level belter, a very high position of power to control the expansion of humanity. Is putting a lot of respect and trust in her. And I think that by doing that, she is now in position to kind of be the linchpin that is able, the net, so to speak, that is able to collect the rest of the Free Navy and kind of integrate them into the rest of the solar system, get them on the same page. Because I do think that most of the Belters have a very justified and like altruistic endgame. They just want equality. They're not trying to destroy everyone else. But they kind of got caught up in Marco's fervor, you know?
yeah, absolutely. What do you think of Fred dying? That was kind of a surprise for me.
Lame. Okay. I didn't like that at all. I like that he died. I think more people should die
Yeah, we're
in this
seven
series.
books in.
Yeah,
Six
I'm kind
books
of
in, yeah.
disappointed that Fred is the only death that we got in this series. Like, I thought they were gonna like double jeopardy us, you know.
Yeah.
Um, it happened like off screen.
Yeah, it was just
They
like
set him
Fred had
up.
a stroke. Oh no.
Yeah,
He's
they set him
dead.
up to be this huge, impactful character. The death of him could be this changing event that ripples for a long way and a long time into the future. And then he just like, I feel like it was an attempt, and I hate it when authors do this. They are like, we know what everyone thinks is going to happen, thus we're going to turn left when everyone thinks we're going to turn right. And it's like, no, you've been setting him up for books and books and books to turn right into this huge, like, goes down in a blaze of glory sort of character. And it's like, they're going to be like, well, he's going to die in death, but it's not going to be from, or he's going to die in battle, but it's not going to be from the battle. He's just going to have a stroke. His body is going to let him down, and he's just going to
What
like
a
big old
lame way to
chesty, like, what
go.
a
Yeah.
lame way to go.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
could have
I
been
agree with
so much
you.
more impactful.
I agree with you. I think Fred dying, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he's
He
clearing
had
the
no
way
emotional
for other
effect.
people to lead. Yeah, I was kind of just like, oh, that's an inconvenience, I guess. But I just
Yeah.
wanted something a little bit more epic for him. But I guess, I mean, it's the way she goes in space, you know? I mean, I guess that you can say that. Like, things aren't always this grand, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing that I bring this up, actually, because there is this is brought up, I think, at least once, but maybe twice. This idea, the what's it called, like the grand man theory, or like the I can't remember what the exact phrasing is of it, but essentially it's this historical kind of like debate, right? Of is history decided on the actions of like one person that's like very important in charge,
Oh,
or is
right,
it a bunch of
linchpin.
little things that are a bunch of little decisions that are being made by a bunch of people and like cultures and stuff like that? And so that's kind of talked about quite a bit in this series, and I guess Fred kind of dying the way that he did, I suppose maybe that's a way of kind of like addressing that, maybe because he
Maybe,
was
and
in
just
a
saying it's a
really
bunch
high
of little
position of
ones.
power. I'm not sure though, because I think we'll have to see how
If
everything
if
else plays
replaceable sort
out.
of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Even Fred is replaceable. We need to clear the some space for some new blood in the
Right.
series for the reader at least, and for the events that are happening. So,
And like
yeah, this is interesting.
it is interesting. Yeah. And like I'm kind of coming around to that idea actually the more I think about it. Like Earth was destroyed, we move on. There's so many battles and things get wrecked, we move on. And like Fred going down, and still we are the book ends with us expanding into the unknown, into going and settling these other planets. But man, it could have been way cooler.
It could have been way cooler. That's just the
And like
best way to put it. Yeah,
the
yeah,
character's name was the Butcher of Anderson Station.
yeah.
He died by a stroke.
Come
Ugh,
on.
come
Yeah.
on. Like I really think that it is an example of an author, two authors in this case, being like, we know what you think is going to happen, and just doing that just to prove us wrong. And it's like,
Ah,
don't do that. Just prove me right, and
it's
we can all
tough.
have a good time.
It's tough to say whether or not it's like pure
I should always
subversion.
be right.
I don't. You're not gonna be. Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I don't know. If it's pure subversion, I don't like to think that it would be. I think it's probably just something that made narrative sense to them. But yeah, personally, as the reader, and somebody that I really liked, Fred Johnson. I thought he was a really interesting character.
Same.
Having him die of a stroke off screen is just kind of like, dang it,
So
you guys. Like
weak.
that was lame.
Yeah, and they're like, well, it happens in real life. It's like, this is a fantasy. This is a space opera. Okay. Just, okay. One thing that did surprise me in this book was how often they and how willing they are to leave their ships in the middle of a battle to go like fight hand to hand,
Out in
so to
space.
speak. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, well, looks like they evaded our missiles again. We'll just put on the mech, we'll suit up team and just go out there and get them. It's like, well, really? That's the plan?
I th-
Wow.
I think with I'm not an expert in space battles, especially futuristic space battles.
It's like more dangerous than an active volcano battle, right?
I have never been in a futuristic space battle before, but I imagine that if you can, I think a tactic that's employed or that could be employed, once you kind of get people over to another ship and start boarding them, I think you've got a sort of upper hand
Oh, for
on
sure.
them. Yeah, so I think
They're
that's
dealing with
that's not like the tactic to use, but if your ship is being targeted and your ship's not cutting it, but you're still in pretty close proximity, it's like with pirate ships, like once pirates like, and obviously pirate ships and spaceships are very, very different. But like you get people boarding the other ship and they're not quite ready for you yet, that's going to be a lot more effective than cannonballs. That's going to be a lot more
totally.
effective. So I get
Yeah,
it,
and it's
but
like it forces them to fight on like two fronts, right? They're like now having to fight. Like it just
yeah,
disrupts the whole thing. There's
totally.
an element of chaos there. Yeah, no, it's once you're bored and you're kind of winning. And in addition to that, you're not only winning, but you've also, and I think this is kind of a element of modern warfare, or at least modern in the sense of these books, in that there's automation now, right? Like the pirates couldn't always leave their ship in mid battle because people need to be there to run the sails and tack and maneuver the ship and load the cannonballs and do that. But now we have this level of automation when it comes to space fighting that we can have half the ship's crew abandon it in the middle of a fight to go board, and the ship still works just fine because we have robots doing everything. So I think it's kind of a cool element of like woven automation into these battles that we wouldn't see in like a Roman soldier battle.
Well, I mean, and also, like you said, like 3 books ago, uh, and I think maybe Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank probably knew this as well, or at least thought of it. But I mean, how many times is the Rossi just gonna like dodge torpedoes? I
Bro,
mean, we
it
got it
even
like.
happened a lot in this book too.
So I
I
mean,
was
and
like,
I'm all
man,
for it, but I think let's change it up and like do some boarding and like, oh god, like let's
right, it's like narrowly avoided.
we're
What's
three
the
thousand
rail
pages
guns
into
got
this.
it again? Like, oh man. Okay, so I did really like, though, on that note, which was how deliberately strategical they were in this book. Like, I really like premeditated violence,
Yeah.
or really like to plan it out first, you know? That longer sentence, it just like gets me. No, but I like strategy on a battlefield. And so many times we get the like Holden bum rush, which is like their usual, like Holden's like, we gotta act now. And then he just like drives straight in, and through sheer awesomeness of piloting and the Rossi being very high tech, it manages to barely scrape through these bum rushes by Holden. But this time we actually got to finally use Naomi's brain in a battlefield sense.
Yeah.
And she figured out like, let's lure them through. And they made this like premeditated strategy. It was really cool that they started implementing that into their battles.
We should talk about this end scene with Marco, because speaking of anticlimactic deaths,
Let me go.
um,
Let me ask you before you ask me anything. How
sure, yeah.
do you think Marco's dead? Dead?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Does he
I
just
don't know. I don't.
disappear?
Maybe not, but probably. I would say maybe not, but probably, because like we got to button up this free navy thing. There's like a
Totally.
whole other like situation where I mean, maybe I don't know. Maybe Duarte knows exactly what happened and what is happening with these missing ships and is able to just go find Margot. That'd be really interesting.
Right. I mean,
Uh huh.
it
That
implies that he goes on the atom journey, right? Where he sees like
yeah.
between all the atoms, and he that's why I wrote into the recap he becomes everything and nothing. But like I don't know. He could have actually got beamed to like the mothership that's abandoned by the ex-alien spaceship, and they had like,
Oh.
it seems like a really, really temporary and dubious plan that they make. I mean, while I like the strategicness, it's like disappearing. What does that mean? Like that could mean literally teleported to like alien mothership weapon ship, you know, it's like
And I thought
they don't know.
James Corey did an amazing job at setting up the specific situation they were in to try something that desperate. Because, yeah, I mean, even when I was reading it, I was like, really though? Like, this is a bad plan. You don't know anything about what you're about to do, but it was the only plan they had. It
Totally.
was all they could do. So I thought that was great. It was like that was like the most stressful part of the whole book for me.
Yeah. Once again, acting with wildly incomplete information.
But sometimes you just have to, or you're
Yeah,
definitely
totally.
gonna die. It's like to take a 10% chance or 100% chances that you're gonna die. So I
Good point.
totally get that, but I don't know. Like Marco's just like dissolving.
Right.
Like
It's
maybe
like Fred Johnson's stroke all over
yeah,
again.
you know it's funny because I hadn't really thought about. I thought he just died. Like I thought that's how Marco died. And
Hmm.
then you brought this up, and now I'm kind of like, well, wait a minute though. Maybe there's like a whole. He comes back as like cyborg Marco, you know, or
Right. Like who knows?
like when Frieza came back in Dragon Ball Z, you know, but then like Trunks was able to take him down really really fast. Like we'll
Well,
see.
okay, so right before he died or did whatever, he disappeared. He like
Dissolved.
saw he went on his little atom journey and saw like the space between atoms, which means who the hell knows. And then he said he felt a dark force coming at
Yeah.
him before like all was blackness. Either that dark force was like their way of describing like death was coming for him, sort of thing, or perhaps where he went was he was like pushed out of the quarantine section, and he's now exposed to this like crazy intellect that the previous civilization had to like quarantine the parts of the galaxy away from,
Man,
who like
I
ate it all, you know? Was that
okay.
the thing, the dark force? I don't know.
Here I'm just gonna say I love this series. I think it's great. Can we need to figure out what the hell's going on. Like
We need
this
to
is
figure
the
out what the hell's going on.
longest I've read without knowing like what the hell is like on the other side of this curtain cuz like I just want to know. And we still have 1,500 pages of book to read, right? Like we're only 2/3 of the way through this. So I'm sure something cool. We're done with the Free Navy arc, or at least the bulk of it, the meat of it. So man, I just like, as a reader and somebody that really loves revelations and things being explained to me, I just please just please just tell me what the hell is
Yeah.
happening. Oh my
Did
god, I'm so impatient.
I same, but did this book had a air of finality to it? It seemed
Yeah,
like
it
they
did.
almost
Yeah.
wanted to end it here because like I don't really know any conflict besides Dodd still like being steepling his hands in some office room somewhere. I don't know who the protagonist or the I don't know who the antagonist is going
Well,
to
it's
be.
Duarte. Yeah, it's definitely Duarte.
Okay.
But yeah, he wasn't. He was not in this book at all. He was barely in the book before it. So Like Alex had a conversation with him at one
That's
point. He's
right.
the one kind of pulling the strings behind everything. So, yeah, I think this was buttoned up in a cool way. Honestly, this could have been the end of like most of the series
Yeah.
if the proto-molecule thing wasn't a thing, which obviously none of this stuff would have happened the way it did if the proto-molecule thing wasn't a thing, but it felt like an ending. It felt like we've figured this out. Um, Even the last line, which I liked a lot, was maybe the stars would be like better off with us now, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And I really liked that a lot. It was a very like kind of final. All right, we might have done something right this time,
Yeah.
but we still have
'Cause-
3 books.
yeah, which is crazy to me because I think that this, not to be like so punny with the name or anything, but I really feel like the Expanse is about our relentless, like humanity's relentless expanse, not only territorially speaking, but also like evolution and growth as beings becoming more like aware and conscious and not so greedy and compassionate to our fellow man. We were expanding not only the land that we occupy, but also like the limits of our mind and how we treat each other. And yeah, there was just like an element of like, cool, it's all good now.
Yeah, but no, probably
And
not.
no,
Probably
no.
not. So I have heard, and if you're listening right now and I'm wrong about this, feel free to correct me in the Discord channel. But I have heard that James S.A. Corey kind of wrote it out as like the first 2 books are a duology, the second 2 books are a duology, the third 2 books are a
Hmm.
duology, and then and then 7, 8, and 9 are a trilogy. So, and it
Got
kind of makes
it.
sense because like
That does.
Leviathan Wakes and Caliban's War is kind of like one thing, and then
Oh
Cibola
yeah.
Burn or excuse me, Abaddon's Gate and Cibola Burn are kind of like one thing. I mean, like
Yep.
Abaddon's Gate is about the
Very
gate opening
linked.
up, and yeah, and then Nemesis Games and Babylon's Ashes are definitely a duology. It's basically one story,
Yep.
like
For
if
sure.
if this was a 1,200-page book, it would make sense for it to be that long,
Yep.
and for one book. But then 7, 8, and 9, I think there's a time jump. Uh, I
I think you're
don't know
right.
how long it is, but there seems to be a time jump between 6 and 7, and then 7, 8, and 9 are all kind of the bombastic final 3 books in this 9-book series. So, woo,
Yeah, and I've
still have
I've
some stuff
also
ahead of
read
us.
yeah, I've also read that there's going to be a time jump. I don't know how long though, but it seems like the plans by the evil one need some time in order to they may have been thwarted or at least like
Slow
careened
it
off
down.
path for a little
Yeah.
while, slowed down. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they decide to remanifest it because I don't feel like it ever really got going in the first place. Like, yeah, it made some moves, but nothing huge.
Yeah, I wonder if the intent was to have people populating other places, like to turn
I,
everything back on and get all these gates back opened up. I wonder like how far back the plan was. You know what I mean? Like I wonder if
yeah.
Duarte was in charge of Dresden and Mao and all of these different things. I'm not sure. This is gonna be my revelatory little tickle sense is jingling. I don't know
Same.
how
I
to say
think that
that.
it's bigger than humanity in the end. I think that the evil in this world will be fighting to do what happened to the alien race that provided the protomolecule to humanity. The person in charge is looking for power, yes, but I think he's maybe like in cahoots
Yeah,
with
maybe. I mean,
the galaxy consumer.
like the last book, or at least the last few books, it's gonna be Holden and company saving the galaxy, right? I mean, like
For
that's
sure.
what
It better be.
it's got to be it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like I could be wrong about it, but we've already saved the solar system. I guess we've already saved humanity in the sense of our like kind of like geopolitical climate or whatever. But
Yeah.
and like making sure
Sure took
everybody's
some
got
rocking to the boat to get there though,
it did.
huh?
But yeah, I hope that the last 3 books are like we're saving the galaxy. Like let's go.
Yeah.
I want that. If
Me
it's not
too.
that, I won't be super disappointed. But I hope that it turns into epic space opera sci-fi stuff.
I agree. I want
Fate
them
of
to up the
everybody.
stakes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like the book has been great. They've officially made me care about the characters, even Holden. I like them. I will care when
Even
they
Holden.
die, which is why I want them to die because they need to pull some feels out of me. And then they set up Fred Johnson to do that, but then they just like totally buttered that bread into just not emotion land. And so I was like, oh, okay, that happened, cool. And then like Holden gets his job, it's all good.
One thing I really love about the show, I've watched the first season of the show now, and one thing I
Oh
really
yeah,
love is how much they run with the joke that Holden loves coffee.
yeah,
I just something about that. I love it so much that they took that and ran with it. Not
like
only in the
very on
show, but in the,
brand.
it's just it's always coffee with this guy. He's
Yeah,
just always looking for his next cup of coffee. He's always got a cup of coffee.
so
Something's
I
always wrong
understand.
with the coffee maker. Yeah, totally. I mean,
Okay, do you feel that the kind of somewhat bombastic approach to and reckless approach to using the proto molecule and the subsequent technology that we might glean from analyzing its proto moleculeness is like way too actively like they're like, hey, we got a new hole for you,
yeah,
Rocinante. It's
I
made from
didn't
the
like that.
proto molecule, like the thing
Yeah.
that killed all of the people. Like, what?
No,
How
we
have
did
we
lots of
studied it
science.
enough?
We did so
Yeah.
much science. Don't even worry about it. It's totally fine. Yeah, I thought that was a little weird.
It's slowing ships down in one scene. It's blasting the railguns away and like warping space time and
Yeah,
like
they don't know
disappearing
anything about
people.
this
And they're like, yeah,
stuff.
we made an experimental hole for you. Like the ship that we fly in? What?
Yeah, I wouldn't be very stoked on
Like
that, but yeah.
just 2 books ago, Holden was ripping apart his entire cargo bay to find the one bit of protomolecule essence that remained on his ship because he was so against. And now he's like, load me up.
But this stuff was mixed with ceramic by scientists,
Yeah.
okay?
Oh my gosh. Perhaps you can explain to me what the energy threshold is. I never quite
Oh,
got
that
that.
whole thing.
What is the energy threshold? Like a
So
speed?
I don't know exactly what the specific number is on it, but I think what Naomi figures out is essentially um there are ships that are disappearing and there are ships that are not disappearing that are still going through that same space. So it's a weird conundrum that nobody can really it seems random, right? But then Naomi figures out, I'm pretty sure, somebody correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I'm pretty
No, no,
sure
you're right.
Naomi figures out that there's a certain mass and energy threshold that so it's like when really big
So it's
fast
size
ships,
moving quickly.
yeah, so when really
That's
big
okay. Got it.
fast ships move through this space, then this thing kind of like modges on it, and then also I think any ships that are accompanying it, so that's why some
Oh.
smaller ships are leaving too, so that's why Naomi kind of sets it up like that. So do they shoot the Medina through?
Yeah, because they go through it. No, no, I don't think they shoot the Medina. They go through it, and I think the Rossi, and they have all the ships behind them, and then those ships are above the energy threshold.
Yeah, so once it, I think once one big thing goes through, that ship
It
is
triggers
fine.
it.
Yeah, and then once the ones, yeah, it triggers it, and then the ones coming after it get eaten. Which that's why I was like, we really don't know if that's gonna work. That sounds way out there,
It
but
was
it
a Hail
worked. It
Mary.
worked. Yeah, it was a hail mary. That's a good way of putting it for sure.
Yeah.
Thought it was
And I
cool though.
mean, yeah, it was really cool. And I liked how like victories can be so momentary in these books, which I feel is like realistic in a live battle. You know, like we took the machine gun nest, and it's like, yeah, but we're all like injured and exhausted and out of ammo. We don't have any food, and the enemy can just come back and take it from us. And they're like, we got Medina Station, and then Marco's like, yeah, no, I still have like a whole army though, and like comes at them. They're like, we're gonna lose for sure. And so they're like, we need reinforcements. And everyone else is like, yeah, remember our plan was like to attack everywhere simultaneously. So we're all busy. And then you know, the depleted troops, so to speak, have to figure out how to survive. And that's what I really liked, which was them using strategy as opposed to just like evading missiles.
I really loved that one scene where Marco is basically like, "All right, turn around. Here we go. Like, we're fighting everybody now." And then he's just like maniacally laughing. I thought that was perfect. I love that they added that in because he's pretty much completely gone crazy with power.
He's a
Which,
psychopath.
let's go. Yeah, that's what I mean. Sure, that makes
Yep.
sense. It totally makes sense.
After he was like, we're not only going to destroy Earth with asteroids just because revenge, we're also going to then strip mine its remaining resources from it. He was just like, he had devolved into like diabolical evil.
What did you think about Holden basically making TikTok videos for everybody for most of this book?
You know, it's pretty
I thought it was cute.
on par for him.
I
You
thought it
know,
was
he's
cute. It was adorable. Yeah.
yeah, and he shares information. That's what Holden does. I
Yeah.
did think I don't think I personally haven't seen Holden's exemplary leadership to the point that he
Ah,
would have been my first choice for head of the union, replacing Fred Johnson. Like the guy
yeah,
just
that
like
felt a little
single-handedly started
contrived.
two books.
Yeah,
This the guy single-handedly started two wars in
yeah,
the first book just by
yeah.
being rash.
I guess it makes sense in like from like the reader's perspective, maybe kind of. It
I
didn't make sense,
didn't.
but also I think it's kind of contrived and just like a way for Holden to kind of like step aside and let Michio Pod. I thought that was a little weak because
Totally. It
like
was a lever to make him look good.
Avasarala and Prime Minister Smith are way smarter than putting an Earther in charge after everything they just went through. Like, come on, really?
Right.
Like, you're
Right.
not that dumb. Like, that would not work. We all know that wouldn't work.
No.
You know, Ugh, I don't know. That was kind of dumb.
Yeah, and like Holden
That's
is like
stupid.
a he's like a Che Guevara out there in the Rossi just running around. Like he doesn't represent stability and like I don't know. He's kind of a
Um,
wild card, you know.
no, but he is someone that people have rallied behind in the past. So I guess it makes sense
Yeah,
that you would like. He has been able to, kind of like passively, I would say, ignite organization. So I can
totally.
see maybe
I mean,
why,
even
but
actively when he broadcasts wide beam to the entire universe, you know, it's like people use that as justification to do all sorts of terrible things. But yeah, he would not have been my first point. Oh, another thing when talking about like first choices, there's like a weird conversation that Holden has with Naomi where he was like, "Hey, yeah, so like I chose Michio Pa to be the head of the union, but if I didn't choose her, I would have chosen you." And it was like, why are you
like
like
what Naomi
what
probably wouldn't want to do that.
yeah, like are you just like a swage? Are you stroking her right now? Like what
Just
is
so you
why are
know,
you telling me
this
like
job
and
you never said that you would ever want, you
yeah,
know?
you're my second choice for like thanks. I feel really great. Like what?
I mean,
I
Michio is
didn't get it.
so much more qualified, but if she wasn't around, it would totally
Yeah.
be you. But
I
Michio
felt like
rocks.
yeah, but Midget Rush. I felt like you were trying to have like a touching moment where like Holden's like he loves her so much, and it was just like super lame and kind of weak. And it was like you're my second best, my second choice for this position that you don't want. Like what?
What do you think about the usage of polyamory and polygamy in these books?
It just goes to and I like how it's actually done in this because it's not the point of any of these books. It's just
Oh
a
no, not at all.
factor
It's
of
just
the society.
yeah. I mean, we're
And I
300, 400 years into the some odd. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, and they're living in like a totally different like situation. You know, we learned from Holden's parents that the more parents have like one kid, the more like land that they can have on Earth and stuff. So there's like reasons to cut down overpopulation problems. Um, and I thought it was a cool, unique way of just like being like, look, as we grow into other societies, we all become different. We're so same and we're so diverse simultaneously, which is
Yeah,
really
right.
cool.
I mean,
And
as
we can all get
societies,
along if we are compassionate and love each other.
totally, yeah, and I mean, it's a very good example of how as societies change, different standards of not only like morality, but just like love and how we connect with each other and stuff. It's always changing and progressing and things like that. And
Totally.
I mean, like, I think in the context of like our current society, I think that it's very obvious that polyamory and polygamy are not the norm, right? It's like not even.
Certainly.
It's like a thing that like the vast majority of people don't do. But it definitely stands to reason that as we would kind of advance in a lot of different ways, I'm not saying polyamory or polygamy is more advanced or anything, but we would shift into a lot of those different things becoming the
Right.
norm. You know? Yeah, I
Right.
thought it
As
was a really
science
good
helps us
call.
overcome dogma, we would start trying at least, whether or not those things tend to be good for us or bad for us, but we would start I think, tending towards trying different ways of living, especially once we were on different planets and away from um, previously defined structures and ways of life. You know, it's like when you move to a new planet, you're like, we're starting again, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that Holden does actually have eight parents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he was raised by eight people. No, it's their
He has their
combined
DNA,
DNA, and one person, I can't remember his birth mother's
right?
name.
His like
Um,
incubating mother.
right, yeah, I think that's the way to put
Yeah.
it.
Maybe that's just for
I think
birds. I'm not sure.
I think birth mother works, but yeah. So he's
Birth
got
mother.
that.
Yeah. That's a far
Like
more
he
elegant
couldn't
way to
like
say it.
share wombs with different people, obviously. But at this, it's really cool world building to have something that's it's so extreme, right? I mean, it's I don't mean extreme in the sense that it's like there's no negative connotation there or anything. I just mean it
Very
deviates so
different.
much from the norm, and to have it as something that deviates that much from the norm, that is not really the focus of any of these characters' lives as much,
Right.
or at
Or
least
the
the
story.
like the people in the relationship are the focus, but not the nature of the relationship, you know.
Yes.
And so having it be this kind of like backseat thing that everybody just doesn't really think that much about is a very good way of showing instead of telling how different these societies are. It's masterful. It's really, really good, and it's interesting.
It is really masterful and interesting, and a good way of saying, like, yes, while we're still bickering about the same old things and killing each other over the same old things, there are areas in which our society has truly matured.
Science fiction does such a phenomenal thing when it showcases these kinds of things, when it showcases these different ways of living. Even in the show, which I've been watching, I
Mhm.
mean, there's like these giant windmills all over the place in Montana, and they're really cool looking, and they're way different than any windmills that we would have, you know. But we do have windmills, but it's interesting to see like we're so far in the future and still like utilizing some of this technology, and they kind of like stuck around for a little while, and it's like, oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Like that stuck around, but they
Yeah.
like changed it up a little bit. Like, what's up with that, you know? So Amos and Alex took a little bit of a backseat in this book, which I was bummed out about because I really
Me too.
they got their own chapters. I think one each.
Yeah.
Maybe Alex. I
Amos
think
had his
Alex.
like moments in space in the mech suit and stuff, but like,
What did you think about Amos confronting Holden about not firing on the Pellis because Philip was on the ship?
that's a, I mean, if your girlfriend's son, oh man, it's like, do I? That's a rough one. That's a rough call to make. And I think Amos was being a little hard on him, honestly.
I don't know. I mean, I think Amos. Amos did it. I think Amos handled it pretty well because basically what he said was, "Hey, you did that, right?" And then Holden was honest with him and said, "Yeah, that's basically what happened." And then Amos said, pretty much, "Okay, well, that's fine, I guess, but this is for real this time. So if you need me to, I'm going to revoke your control of whether or not you can do that again." And Holden's like,
Right.
"I'll be fine." And Amos has enough trust in Holden, but that's one of the really cool things about Amos is that he's so blunt and he's so honest all the time. And so when he tells Holden, "I'm gonna like take away the control for you to be able to do that," and
Mm-hmm.
he's very clear with his intentions and he's very clear with confronting him, and then Holden says he's fine, there's a lot of trust there, and Amos says, "All right, cool, well then I won't," you know.
Right.
It's just a nice little scene there.
Yep. And Amos giving him a little check of like, make sure that once again, you are not deciding that you are the personal like judge, jury, and executioner,
Totally,
yet
yeah.
simultaneously hating on anyone else who decides to play that role. Enter
So
Detective Miller.
and Amos sometimes.
Yeah. And Amos, yeah, for real.
I know it's funny. The Holden. I feel like there's multiple conversations where Naomi's like, "Holden, okay, the Clarissa's part of the crew, so
Yeah.
just chill on it, okay?" And
It's
then
like she's
Holden's like,
not part
"But
of the
she
crew.
killed people," and there's like a couple parts where Naomi's just like, "Dude, like Amos kills people all the time," and Holden
Right.
just says, "Yeah, well, that's Amos. Come on, Holden, you're
Yeah.
smarter than that.
What? Are you
You're
kidding me?
smarter
Are you
than
gonna
that."
boys will be boys this conversation right now, bro? No. Also, like Amos is not the only one who has killed people aboard this ship. I'm pretty sure everyone here has taken out a lot of people. Like they were in like a 200-page firefight in one book. Like,
Yeah, I think it's silly. I'm glad that that got all cleared up. Holden sees Clarissa as a part of the crew. It's
yeah,
yeah, it's fine. Bobby's part of the crew. You know,
yep. It
I
was
think
nice to
adding
see that arc kind of complete and
it's
have her
interesting
come.
too because they were talking about in the beginning of Nemesis games. They were like, we need to start adding some people to this crew because I mean, four of us
Yeah,
is fine, but this is we're all stressed pretty thin here.
we have no
And
night shift.
then it took until the end of book 6 for us to have two more people on the crew that are considered family. You know, I really thought that
Right.
Alex and Bobby were going to hook up. I'm sad. I'm
Same.
sad. I'm glad Alex got with somebody. That's nice. Good for you,
Yeah.
Alex.
Good for Alex.
Man, but Bobby and Alex, come on,
Yeah.
come
Even
on.
sounds good. Alex
They're
and
right
Bobby,
there. They're
A and
right there.
B. Right.
They're buddies. But I mean,
Convenient. We love them.
that's a thing too that I really like in books sometimes though is like the obvious kind of like they should get together. When it doesn't happen, it's kind of cool sometimes to just have platonic friendships in and out of books. it just hurts when I'm reading, and I'm like, come
I
on,
know, I know.
come on, just
I
do
want to see it
it.
happen. Yeah, and
It's fine.
they kind of tend to stack that in this book. There was so many, like, if it was just like one thing, like, okay, Fred Johnson's death was a major disappointment, but we had like Fred Johnson's death. We had like this crazy, crazy battle, and it culminates in poof,
Poof, boop, boop,
poof.
boop.
Everything is Stardust now, I guess. And
Yeah,
then, like, I don't know, there were just so many things that I feel like they were being set up to be epic and awesome, and they were just like poof, 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 nope, dead, stroke, and poof,
yeah,
and gone. And this person's not going to get with that person. Nope. I felt I was denied a little,
maybe.
and
Yeah,
I
I
hope it's
guess.
not intentional.
I don't know. I think that like James S.A. Corey is the closest one to this story, and they felt that these choices made narrative sense. At this point in this series, I trust a lot of the calls that they make.
Same,
Not in. I don't.
not all of
It's
them.
funny though, because I don't trust a lot of the calls that the characters make. But I trust them making the call to make the character make that call. You know, what I
Totally.
mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
funny, yeah. But I think books 7, 8, and 9. I'm pretty confident we're gonna get a really good end to this series. Like,
yeah. I would like a thumb to be kind of clamped down on the point of it all.
like, I mean, it seems to me that this series is very much to do with like the consequences of war and the consequences of uh,
Hate.
yeah, hate, revenge. Like, there's a lot of points in these books where there are misunderstandings, you know,
Yeah,
and resentments
Holden.
that, yeah, like, I mean, Holden is a big misunderstanding, but
Hello, universe. I got
it
another one for you.
it seems like the point of all this is, like, united we stand, to divided
Right.
we fall, kind of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
as we're only going to progress and expand as far and as long as we can stick together and weather certain storms together and
Right.
be honest
Understand
with
each other's
ourselves and each other.
differences.
Yeah, exactly. And look at this, like, whole Free Navy debacle, like kind of like what I was talking about before, where these factions had been so divided up that they couldn't even see, like, one of the more kind of like obvious answers, which would be, okay, well, if this is a problem for the Belters because they're not going to be relied on as much for the things that they had previously been doing, like, why don't we shift the landscape for them so that we can keep them incorporated into this new system, which you
Right.
can really talk about with, like, all kinds of different things. I mean, especially like in the world we live in today, we're having all kinds of different technological advancements that are changing the landscape of how our society functions, right? And if we ignore the plight of people that will not benefit from those kinds of things, then that's going to create a lot of resentment and create a lot of problems. I mean, like, you can't just, like, send everybody off to different planets all of a sudden. I mean,
Can you imagine the I don't even know what the proper word is. I guess jealousy, the envy that you would feel to see how excited someone would be who all of a sudden we've got 100 new planets that we can go on. You have a body, however, that cannot be on a planet. It's like this whole new world, and you can't swim. It's just like, man, that's got to be so disappointing. Like the whole rest of the everyone's like exploring and adventure, and everyone's Magellan all of a sudden, except for you and your friends. You're just like stuck on this rock because you're physiologically limited.
and this is pure speculation on my part, but maybe if Earth and Mars and the outer planets had some kind of coalition where they all worked together and were all communicated with each other all the time on everything, this problem could have been solved without the Free Navy popping up. And I think
Absolutely,
that that might be one of the,
absolutely.
yeah, that might be one of the, and obviously I haven't read the next few books. I don't know. I'm not taking as bird's eye of a view on this whole conflict as I could, and I'll have a much clearer view on that after I read these books. But I think that's one of the main points of this series is, as we expand out, as we develop technologically and socially, we need to make sure to communicate with each other. We need to make sure
You gotta say
to, yeah,
communication.
communication, and also, like, respect for each other's differences.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's all kinds of things that we would need to do and still need to do today to keep progressing. Yeah, it's a fucking brilliant series. Like, this is
Yeah, it
really,
really is.
really good.
And I do need I like, and my books don't have to have a point, but like, and I agree with you in that the points are, but I'm meaning more like I need like a like a Dark Lord to defeat. Give me a
Yeah,
Dark
I mean
Lord. Give
it's
me a ring.
I think we'll. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I don't
I
think you'll
don't
be
think so either.
disappointed. I think we'll be fine. Yeah, I think in book
Yeah.
seven, hopefully, I don't know how long the time skip is, but hopefully, book seven, we start to see a little bit more of Duarte. We start to see a little bit more of this proto molecule stuff that's going on, and we
Yeah.
understand what the actual really big threat is now that we have kind of come together a little bit. You know, that's what this sixth book was. The sixth book was about defeating a common enemy who had initially pretty good intentions, but was ultimately not great for humanity as a whole,
Right.
and coming
And I
together and continuing on to deal with stuff.
while it is hopeful, I think there's also an element of sadness there in that it did take the destruction of billions of people for us to finally unite and look at a common enemy. It's sad that it took a common enemy, that we had to be united against something. We had to be united in our efforts to destroy something in order to not destroy each other. Um, which
Yeah,
kind
that
of
is
begs
kind
the
of sad.
question, do we always have to destroy something? Like what are we just,
Yeah,
is that in our nature, or can we truly be peaceful?
I mean, I think we as humans have an innate ability to be distracted by shit. Like
Yes.
it's one thing that like it is one of our biggest failings is that we don't seem to be able to focus as a large group on something. You know, it's really
Yes.
difficult to
We're very
do. It's
individualistic.
pretty easy when you've got like 10, 15 people like living on a farm together, you know,
Right.
but like hundreds of millions or billions of people trying to figure something out is a lot more difficult and a lot more complicated.
Right. And a reshuffling of the hierarchy of differences, right? Where because like before it was like an accent, someone's belter speak could be enough for them to be like treating someone like dogs. But
Yeah.
all of a sudden an event happens that all of humanity is threatened, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
no, those differences just melt, they mean nothing now. Like if aliens were to attack Earth right now, China and America would be working together so fast.
Well, because see, that's the thing, and I think that's why the idea of unifying against a threat is because the threat outweighs any
Right, it's a rearranging
gain.
of the
Like,
hierarchy.
right, exactly. So it's like when you don't have that threat there, everybody's still into their own best interest. But when everybody has a common best interest in eviscerating that threat, then it works out because everybody works together. But when that threat is not there, everybody's like trying to get theirs, you know? And so
Right.
yeah, yeah.
And this is the first time in this story that we are in a position that we can move forward and have the thing that unifies us be building, exploring, expanding, growing, and not destroying, fracturing, and taking out other things that we don't understand. It's like we're positioned properly, and I wonder what they're going to do in the story as to what road we take.
Well, that's why I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I think, yeah,
I don't think so either.
like the big bad is only going to be proportionate to how much we've all come together. You know?
Yeah. Ooh, well
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
Damn. We should end there. That was
Damn,
perfect.
that's in there. Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you everybody so much for listening to this episode. Babylon's Ashes, not the most exciting book I've ever read, but yeah, there's some good stuff in here. It's an
Good battle
awesome.
stuff.
Yeah, it was a good Expanse book. Come on, I liked it more. I
Good
still liked it more.
strategery.
I liked it more than Cibola Burn. Still,
Same. Yeah.
personally,
Same.
even though
Yeah.
the ending of Cibola Burn was awesome,
Yeah.
I still liked it more. But
And
anyway,
I complained a lot about some of the elements in this book, but there was parts of it that was very good
oh
too.
yeah, no, I'm excited to get into book 7, 8, and 9 with you, and then we'll wrap up the Expanse. Everybody, again, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Tune in, I think, hopefully next week for book 7, Persepolis Rising, and yeah, look out
We got
for all
other
of our
series
other
to get to,
episodes.
baby. We gotta
got
get them
lots of
done.
stuff. We got to get a move on. We're doing Faithful and the Fallen. We're doing Scythe. We're doing
Whew,
Red Rising.
so excited.
Oh, some really cool stuff. Throne of Glass, Malazan Book with the Fallen.
Woo.
Yep, all kinds of cool stuff. Everybody, hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and of course, happy reading.
Bye, everybody.